Today's topic is going to be esports versus regular sports. I think that esports is going to not only surpass regular sports, but it's just going to replace them altogether. For those of you who don't know, what is esports? Esports stands for electronic sports. Well, it's professional gaming. The first event hosted was back in the 80s by Atari. Space Invaders Championship. Space Invaders, those of you who don't know, is one of the first video games made. You control a ship that goes back and forth, left and right. You can shoot aliens that are slowly coming towards you. The aliens are shooting back at you. Every time you kill one, you get a certain amount of points, and then by the end of it, your points stack up, and you compare against your friends who got the most points. And then the guy who got the most points playing won the. So back then in 1980, the first place prize for this enormous tournament of 10,000 people was a year subscription to the Rolling Stone magazine, which today is worth $50. You know, you can do the math, figure out with inflation how much that actually was back then, but it's like getting $50 today for winning first place. Now, that was esports in its infancy. To put it in perspective on how big sports were compared to esports, a 30-second ad for the 1981 Super Bowl was $324,000. So you take the highest possible level of gaming compared to the highest possible level of football, nowhere near comparative. So nowadays, let me run some numbers by you. Esports in 2020, total worldwide revenue has just broke $1 billion. Now, how does that compare to other professional sports today? The NHL's revenue is worth $5.09 billion, NBA $8.76 billion, Major League Baseball $9.9 billion, NFL is $16 billion. Needless to say, they're catching up. I'm going to give you some other numbers too. Check this out. So that's just revenue. Now let's talk about viewership. Viewership for esports has grown 19% every single year on average for the past like 10 years. So the other sports viewership only grew NHL 4%, NBA 4%, MLB 8%, woohoo, and NFL 5%. I will always anticipate the growth to continue and I see no reason for it to slow down. And the winnings as well support the growth of esports. The total prize pool for all of esports globally rises every year by 42%. That's nuts. 42%. Put that in perspective, NHL lost 14% winnings for the Stanley Cup, lost 22% for the NBA championship. World Series gained 5% in the NFL, the Super Bowl gained 6%, okay? But 42% annually, that's insane. Another one that's hard to compare is the number of athletes out there. With professional sports, you get your kind of like set in stone the number of players that are allowed to be on the field, and maybe teams will add more to their pool of players. Maybe they'll have first string, second string one year, and then they'll add a third and fourth string the next year. I'm only going to give them a plus or minus of 1%. I think that's fair. But the number of athletes globally for esports is growing 25.4% more athletes annually. A Fortnite tournament, the Fortnite World Cup, the first place winner got $3 million. Let's compare that to the Tour de France. The winner of the Tour de France got $571,000 US. The winner of the Boston Marathon got $150,000. The Daytona 500 got $2.06 million, and the PGA Championship in 2020 got $1.98 million. And just as a consolation, U.S. Olympian, you don't get paid money to win the Olympics by the Olympic organization, but usually countries, if you take home a gold medal, they'll give you a certain amount. The U.S. gives $37,500 for winning a gold medal. That's where people go to see who's the best gymnast or who is the best swimmer, etc. To be crowned the best, the potential winnings for these other sports that I named is lower than esports. To be the best Fortnite player, you are now entitled to $3 million. Insane. Now that you got some of the numbers now, esports is definitely on the come up. But does it have the longevity to surpass these professional sports that we know and love? I'd like to say yes for three main reasons, all right? The first reason is the skill ceiling. So what is a skill ceiling? How I'd word that is like the ability for the game that you're playing to be solved. If one person makes this move, the other person makes another move, which will counter that move, and there will be no winner. Both players know exactly what needs to happen in order to either win or cause a tie. A good example I use for that is tic-tac-toe. The goal is to get 3 in a row, and you take turns going. There's a 3x3 square that you play on. As soon as you see your opponent has 2 in a row, where are you going to put your move to prevent him from getting 3 in a row, right? It's pretty simple. It's pretty solved. Like, the human mind can comprehend this, and to the point where there's nothing else to comprehend. We understand the full spectrum of tic-tac-toe. I know there are some little like combinations of moves you can do to where you can trump your opponent. If you put 2 on the corners, now you can put 1 in the other corner, and whether he goes here or here, you have 2 places to win, and then you stuck him. If you really look at all the combinations of moves you can do, and you really wanted to, I'm sure you could figure it out on how to trump your opponent. Let's talk about video games now, especially with team events or 1v1 events. Seemingly infinite amount of combinations of how the game can play out. No one game is going to be the same as the next. You kind of have to feel out each game as a pro player. I don't know, I'm not a pro player, but it's not as solved as tic-tac-toe. With each game being different and unsolvable for humans, it really allows you to take flight and allows people to continuously improve and never hit that ceiling to where they can no longer improve. In tic-tac-toe, as long as I counter every one of your moves, that's as good as I can get. But with these other games, like the games nowadays, you cannot solve these games. Computers would have a hard time solving them. AI can. The hardware alone in computers pretty much doubles in speed every year. With these super advanced consoles that are able to handle all these operations, advanced controllers that allow us to make these split-second decisions on how the game will react versus what we're pressing. It's already. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk and how he talks about we're already cyborgs, just the data transfer rate is through our thumbs. You get a new Xbox with more memory, like it's almost as if a part of you gets upgraded with the console. The more advanced the console, the more things we'll be able to control in the game. And that'll just raise the skill ceiling higher and higher and higher. No matter what you're playing too. It could be a first-person shooter with humans trying to shoot each other. It could be a sports game, NFL or Madden 2020. You can come up with your own new idea for a game that's only possible in computers, right? We have no limitations in the computer world. With these limitations getting pushed farther and farther, we're already to the point where the skill ceiling for video games is unachievable by humans. With these video games, there's an infinite number of achievable goals that you could set out for a person. And the controls for achieving these goals are just going to get more and more and more advanced. So we're not even at the peak yet. We'll probably never get at the peak. Point number 2. We have a larger selection of people that are able to compete in esports. To be a pro basketball player, let's argue that you have to be over 6'8". Okay, I know that's not true. There are 5'9" point guards that throughout history have been successful, but on average, right, the taller you are born, the more successful you will be at the sport of basketball. What percentage of humans are that freaking tall that can compete in professional basketball? That's the pool of people that you can select from when you're picking NBA players. I bet you, out there, the people who are not 6'10", if they were born 6'10", will be better basketball players than the current 6'10" pool of people that we have. They were just unlucky and weren't born as tall. Now with esports, you don't have those requirements. Anyone can pick up a controller. And yeah, I know like some people with diseases have short fingers or something, that can't, there's still like a percentage of people that can't play video games. I'm not saying all can. Or maybe the type that gets seizures when they see the lights flashing, The pool of people able to play video games competitively, if they desire to, is much, much, much larger. And if you're trying to make a professional league, the goal is to find out the best of the best. Wouldn't you want to have a larger audience or a pool of talent to pick from? So my third reason why esports is going to take over is there's no room for human error during events. One thing that never really sat right with me is you're always at the mercy of the referee. They're humans, right? Throughout history, out of the millions of calls that refs have had to make worldwide, there are some that made the wrong call. Maybe it didn't get reviewed and that was the final say. That team their foot wasn't on the line or they caught the ball inbounds now didn't score because a human made an error. With esports, computers, there is no computer human error. There is no, computers don't make the same error as humans do, right? It's in the simulated world MLB on Xbox, right? If you hit the ball and you're running and you're tapping your sprint button, you slide and you barely make it, the umpire is not going to be wrong because the computer knows that you hit the base on time. We're all human. We know that humans aren't perfect. Humans will make mistakes. And I bet you there are even errors in extremely high stakes games. That's life-changing for games that big to not be the winner because of a human error. Where I'm bringing this all back to is esports. No matter what game we're playing, there's no room for human error when making these judgment calls, basically. So there you have it. There's my argument. I firmly believe that esports is going to take over the world, and it's on the path to doing so. We'll get to see all sports played digitally. Thanks for checking out the channel. So I made this channel to just kind of post the topics that we would talk about, and maybe new topics that come to my mind, or topics that you guys come up with. DM me or leave a comment or something, and I'll get back to you. I'm going to do the research, find you guys the facts, spit it to you on these 10-minute videos, and we'll come up with a conclusion. Cool stuff. All right, take care. See you next time.